Ducklings, today's video is sponsored by Skillshare. I am very privileged to be able to say as much, and I can't wait to let you know a little bit more about that platform later on. Pop-Tarts, I thought something cheerful today, something I love talking about, something I know that I can riff on and get great pleasure from doing so, and that is things I love about being a professional tarot reader. I have been a pro reader full-time for a long time now, a few years now. Tarot reading makes up just over 50% of my bread and butter, with the other part being made up by things like witchy mentoring and tarot mentoring and spiritual counselling sessions. And believe me, the cards can appear in spiritual counselling sessions too. It's not often that I am in a situation where I don't have a deck either in my bag or in arm's reach of me in my home. In fact, these are my tarot shelves behind me. So yeah, sometimes we break out the cards anyway, even if it's not actually a tarot reading purchase. So I know that I will get great pleasure from telling you guys just some of the things that I really, really love about my full-time gig. I feel completely blessed to be able to do what I do for a living. So unbelievably blessed. It really is the privilege of my life. I just get so much out of it. I get such a kick out of it. I love being able to play with the beautiful imagery. That's definitely part of it. And I just love knowing that something that I'm so passionate about, something that I know I want to be cremated with after death, right? I want to go with my Rider-Waite-Smith that I learned with, you know, that's actually almost going black on the sides now from the use that I've given it over time. It's getting quite dog-eared. And knowing that something that I'm so passionate about can also be something that pays my rent and bills, it's a good feeling, I'm not going to lie. So I would love to talk a little bit about the things that particularly make me feel giddy about my chosen vocation. One of my skills, I think, as a human being is communication, being able to communicate what I think and feel, and also being able to hold space for people while they communicate in their own particular style, in their own manner, and being able to feel that they have conveyed what they needed to convey, and then to be able to respond. So I guess talking and listening are two key skills that I think I have mastered through my lifetime. And one of the things I love about being a pro reader is that tarot is such a language, you know. In fact, I know that in my world, in my sort of reality with my online life and my business and stuff, I probably would not be able to count the amount of times that somebody has actually utilized tarot to construct a sentence that will help me to understand something. So, for example, quite a few times in my line of work, I've heard somebody say, oh, I've had such a tower year so far. It's been such a tower experience for me. And that really shortens and simplifies something that could be quite complex to explain and quite tricky to actually sort of put across to somebody. But because that language of tarot is there for you to say, oh, I felt really Queen of Wands about it, you know, I approached this project from a Queen of Wands perspective, you know, or it was a real death card moment for me or whatever. You know, we have that language, and it really allows us to inject sentences with tons and tons of meaning and nuance that people that do not read the cards actually don't have access to, and would be scratching their heads at, and they would be thinking, what do you mean you're having a Two of Pentacles moment? What does that mean, right? But if you read tarot, then you understand that. I, as a pro reader, read for a lot of people that do not read the cards at all. They have no interest in reading them. They just like to get readings from someone who is proficient. I read for people who are tarot students. They're learning tarot, and sometimes that's part of the reason that they want to get a reading, is because it's a really good learning aid. To actually receive a reading while you're learning is really strengthening and really insightful. I also read for pro readers. I read for fellow readers in my industry who read full time, and that I consider my colleagues and my respected peers in the industry, and I have had the privilege of reading for quite a few of them, and vice versa. I have purchased readings as well. So you know, there are some people for whom the language of tarot is not apparent, and it gives me great pleasure to explain it, and I explain it with this fine narrative detail that I weave into the reading. You know, if somebody doesn't know Queen of Wands from a hole in the wall, maybe it's the first reading they've ever received and they don't read tarot, it gives me great pleasure to make that queen jump out of the card and come alive, and to explain really intricately, like, why is she here? Who is this person? Who is this figure? Who is this energy? What is this person bringing to the proceedings? What do they represent about the querent and the querent situation? So I love doing that. And equally, I love reading for people who are very familiar with the language and very familiar with the nuances of a card. That's very exciting too. And sometimes when I read for someone who also reads the cards, sometimes I hold up a card and announce what the card is for a particular spread position, and the person I'm reading for, who is a reader themselves, will crack up into laughter or kind of like face palm and be like, oh, of course that came up. And so there's that instant understanding, and it doesn't give me any less pleasure to read the cards for them. I get pleasure whenever I get to tell the stories of the cards, explain how they weave together, all of that stuff. I love that stuff. It makes me so happy to do what I do. The second thing I really enjoy so much about being a pro reader that I wanted to mention was that the cards can often deliver medicine to me as they are delivering medicine to my client themselves. So sometimes I even joke about it. I go through the story of the card, what it means, what it's bringing to the proceedings for the client, and then at the end I say, I also need to take that advice, or that's really ringing some bells for me as well. That's put some pieces together for me. Let's both take that advice, you know, because I think it's so amazing how I get something so deeply personal out of some of the readings that I do, and I can still deliver so fully to the client what it is that the cards are saying to them, and the cards are speaking to them, not to me. But sometimes, oh my God, someone's knocking on the door for me too, right? It's not just the client that is receiving something potentially very medicinal. It's also something that I can take on, and I really enjoy that. I love the fact that I am feeling all the time into what the cards mean, the medicine that they are delivering, the guidance that they are offering, the things that they are inviting the client to consider. At the same time, a card might be inviting me to consider a similar thing. And one thing about tarot as medicine is that sometimes I recognize that I am suggesting something to a client, something they can try, something they can rethink, a mindset shift, a changed behavior that the card is suggesting. And I think to myself, I've been actually purposefully avoiding that. I am resistant to that. And it challenges me. It challenges me to just put that in a box at the back of my brain and really take it with me into the rest of the day or the rest of the week, because I recognize so much when I'm in resistance to something that I am suggesting to a client, because it low-key feels like hypocrisy. And so I do think to myself, isn't it funny that is something that I'm suggesting that could be really medicinal and helpful for a client, and yet I know that I have been purposefully kind of skirting around that. I've not been looking at that myself. So then I come away with medicine as well. It's medicinal enough to be able to sling cards for someone and really hold the space for them to speak through their problem, and then let the cards speak to, what can be brought to the proceedings by way of guidance, by way of shifts, by way of realization. It's medicinal enough to see that I can aid somebody in that way, but at the same time to be aided myself by the reading that I've done for someone else, to see that there is advice in there for me as well. That is very, very humbling. That is an incredible experience, and I have that experience often, especially, as I said, when I feel like I'm being a bit hypocritical by suggesting something to the client that I'm actively afraid of doing, and I know that I keep backing away from it, but I need to do it as well. That is very humbling to be like, also I need to get started on that pronto. I cannot just suggest this to the client and have the client bravely say, you know what, I'm going to do that. I'm going to look at that. I'm going to change that. That's the next step. I can't let the client go away and do that in their own life without also agreeing to do it in mine if it's what I need to do. So it keeps me in check. That medicine that comes from the cards very much keeps me in check. I really love the fact that I can deliver as a reader what the client may have been looking for, but also the wisdom is delivered to me also. Unless I'm completely emotionally checked out during a reading, which I can't be because it's not a good reading if I'm emotionally checked out. I want to be in there. I want the only thing that I'm concerned with to be the client's issue, the client's needs, what is coming through from the cards for that client. So because I'm so emotionally in it and I'm so invested and I'm feeling every nuance of the guidance that I'm offering, it really comes back to me as well. I would have to be totally emotionally zoned out to not receive some of this medicine myself, you know, because you have to be in such a conscientious, such a connected mood to do a good reading. That medicine also comes to you. You are that open channel for that medicine as well. So that is something that I really love about being a pro reader. Many's the time that I've come away from a reading thinking about how some of that stuff might apply in my own situation. And I kind of think, there is definitely something in there for me too. That's happened quite a few times and I love that feeling very much. The third thing I wanted to mention about being a pro reader and what I love about it is I fucking love having the opportunity to deeply, deeply admire my clients and their personal stories. And I have so much admiration when I hear about the experiences, when I hear about the challenges and trials that have been overcome, when I witness, you know, the journey of somebody's post-traumatic growth, if I work with them regularly, when I hear about the story of someone's post-traumatic growth, when working with them once, you know, these things are incredibly humbling. And that is a big part of what makes this job the privilege of my lifetime, you know, really to be able to sort of get a portal into somebody's reality and experience just a small slice of their story from what they say to me and how they explain what they have been going through and the challenges that they've had to rise to. That kind of thing is unbelievably humbling. I can't think of another word for it. It is humbling in the extreme. My clients have taught me so much about life. Every single one of them is a guru, a teacher, and a guide. And I think I've said this before in a video or two, but I want to really stress it now as well, that I do not think of myself as a key holder and my clients as needing the key to the door and me kind of like bestowing the key to them via spiritual counseling or tarot or anything else. I think of myself as a torch bearer. I think of myself as someone who is holding a torch and walking slightly ahead of someone, just showing them the available options, just giving to them the available scenarios and the available things to consider. The next day, the client could be the one bearing the torch for me. There is no hierarchy here. It's totally flat land where I'm completely an equal with everyone that I come across in my work. And really, it's just who is holding the torch at that moment, you know, to help the other person to perceive the possibilities in front of them and decide which way to go. And that is the attitude that I have always taken when it comes to my practice as a professional reader. Because for me, that is how I have received most help in my life, is from someone who is being non-hierarchical and non-judgmental about what is happening, and someone whom I can feel respects me at a fundamental level, that does not feel like they're dangling the key. And you know, my reward for having certain understandings or putting certain pieces together or doing certain work on myself would be to get the key. I don't like that attitude, and that is how sometimes you feel when you're working with any kind of professional, be they spiritual or in the wellness space or in psychotherapy or anything else. Sometimes there is a dynamic that feels unhealthy because it is unequal, and there is definitely that very obvious imbalance of power. And I've tried always to make sure that in my practice, that is not a factor. I totally believe that somebody could be the one to guide me the next day. There is no hierarchy, as I said. So, you know, for me, when clients tell me about their stories, where they've been, what their considerations are, the decision-making processes they're going through, I just feel so grateful and so privileged that somebody would crack open for me in that way and give me that slice of their story. I respect that there is so much more that I do not know about them, but really just that little slice is often enough to turn my day in some way or another. There's alchemy in what I learn about people's stories, people's decisions, people's tragedies. And I really just have so much admiration. And that is a really beautiful thing, that I have the opportunity to admire so many people through the average week. You know, I see a lot of people in the average week. I see on average about 90 clients a month, 90 to 96 clients a month. So some of those clients will be regulars that I speak to every week or every fortnight. Some of them drop in once monthly. Some of them see me once and I won't see them again for many a moon. But they have all given me something. Anyone I've ever spoken to has given me something super, super valuable. Being a tarot toddler, this is definitely the fourth thing that I really wanted to make sure I mention when it comes to things I love about being a pro reader. being that tarot toddler, being a consistent, perpetual pupil, you know. I believe that even if I make very, very old bones, I will not even have scratched the surface of what I could understand about this tool. Honestly, that's how profound it is. That's how unbelievably abyssally deep it is. And I feel like a baby with this tool. I feel like a baby. And you know what? I like that feeling. When I was younger, when I was in my early 20s, I didn't like that feeling. I wanted to know it all. I wanted to devour it. I wanted to ingest it into every one of my cells and feel like I'd really gotten there. Oh, the folly of youth. God, I need to get there. There is nowhere to get. There is nowhere to get. It's lovely to have goals for your practice of learning and practice of reading. I think it's wonderful to want to be proficient in so far as where you are at a certain point. But I'll always be crawling. I'll always be in nappies when it comes to tarot. I'll always be, you know, wide-eyed, in a state of wonderment, feeling like I don't know the first thing about it still. No matter how much I learn, I'll always be voracious in my reading and learning. There's always something else. There's always something else. Even in just the combinations of cards that can come up, you can learn so much. You can strip back so many layers just from the card combinations that have come up in any particular spread positions. And then whoever you're reading for, what is their story? What are they trying to achieve? Every time it's a new recipe that can be made. It's something new that you can get out of those raw ingredients, you know? The story and the needs of the querent, add that with the card combinations, add that with your existing knowledge, and you start to fill in the gaps as you are reading for people. And that is a sensational feeling. It is very cool. Some of the most important and juicy things that I have learned that have helped me level up with the cards, I did not get from sitting and reading them from books. I got them from being on the job, doing it in real time with a client and recognizing what came out of me when certain card combinations turned up together. How did I reach into the far nuances of the card? How did the card start flipping itself and showing me a different facet of its diamond? That is such a wonderful, wonderful, potent experience, you know, to come away with a deeper understanding of a card out of what happened in the moment when I was delivering the interpretation of that card in that specific, never again happening, once in a lifetime reading. Every reading I do is a once in a lifetime affair. It's that moment, it's that energy, it's that client, it's that version of me, it's that deck that we're using that will never happen again in all of space and time that we know of. So to me, it is always a very sacred, very potent moment where we respect the power of what is unfolding. And in that moment, I have taken away some extremely shrewd and deep insights about the cards, and cards that I have been struggling with, or I felt like I'm kind of on the back foot with, or I feel like there needs to be a breakthrough with that card, and I might have sort of become a little bit complacent with the meanings that I know, or I don't feel much emotionally when a specific card comes up. A lot of what will draw me close to a card again is how I choose to interpret that card when it comes up for a client in real time in a reading. And I do all of my readings live. You know, I'm one-to-one online with that client in the moment. There isn't the opportunity to sit and, you know, really consider everything that I'm going to write. Not that I have any disrespect for email readings. I did them for a long time and I think they are wonderful, but there is a different process. There is the opportunity to really sit and think about how you're going to put things together. With a live reading, it has to come out of you. It has to be woven together very much in the moment. And perhaps that's also a reason why those different layers and those sort of beautiful ethereal tapestries of nuances start to come through in that moment. And it is magic. It's majestic. And I walk away sometimes being like, oh, well, that flipped my idea of the star on its head. I really opened another door there in that card, you know. Or I'll come away and think, wow, I was almost path working with Page of Swords there. I was almost like, I almost invoked his spirit or whatever it might be. So, you know, there is that immediacy of the way that I do readings, which also lends itself to me learning on the job. I'm learning as I go. I'm studying as I utilize the skill I already have. My skill is heightened by having to put my skill into practice most days a week. Sweethearts, it's time for me to talk a little bit about Skillshare. As you know, Skillshare is the sponsor for this video. I love working with this platform. They do incredible courses. They offer courses across a range of different subjects, from business and marketing to creativity, home decor, baking classes. There's classes about filmmaking, photography, art journaling. So a lot of the things that I am very interested in. And my hope for joining Skillshare initially was that I would stop going down unhelpful and kind of slightly addictive rabbit holes in the YouTube space and actually go to a platform where everything is about learning, everything is about imparting knowledge. And it really helped me to get out of that feeling that I had wasted time with the videos that I was watching and listening to and having on in the background, and instead brought me to this place where I felt like every time I log in, I'm getting value for my time and I'm getting something in return. As you know, I am a pro reader. I do talk about that in this video. So I thought I would direct you to a couple of amazing courses on branding, because branding is something I have read a lot about. It's something I'm really interested in because I've used it with my business. You know, I've used those tips, I've implemented that kind of advice. So I wanted to start with a course by Kate Aaron's, Personal Branding, Crafting Your Social Media Presence. This one is a super helpful one about branding. It really explains what a personal brand is, so going in very sweet and simple. But then it takes you through purpose worksheets and helps you to define the purpose of your brand, define the character of your brand, and all that good stuff. So that one is super helpful. And also I would recommend Do Things, Tell People, The Power of Personal Branding. This course is by Hamza Khan, really, really useful, takes you through a lot of different action steps to help you discover your reason for the brand and the message, articulate the value of your products and services, and really just kind of complete your social media presence and make sure that it's authentic and it's effective. So if you are interested in having any kind of business, or you have a business now, or you want to be a pro reader and you're trying to think about how to position yourself in the market, these two courses would be great. But there's just so much to choose from with Skillshare. I just thought I would sort of direct you to a couple of great marketing courses this time. But hop on there and have a look. The first 1,000 people to click the link in my down bar are given a free 1-month trial of Skillshare. It is a reasonably priced platform for all the stuff that it includes, but you may as well try it for free, right? And when you click on the link, it helps my channel. So go ahead and do that. One thing that I really love, that intrigues me over and over again, that I get a massive kick from, is I love seeing patterns in the readings that I do for people across various spans of time. I find it really interesting how clients' issues overlap, or how their attitudes towards things overlap. And I know that a lot of this is to do with what is going on astrologically, and astrally, fuck it. But yes, astrologically, so what is going on with the planets, that kind of thing. I definitely think that has to do with it. I definitely think seasons are a part of the reason that a lot of client perspectives or issues or needs will kind of overlap, and I will see similarities in the readings that I'm doing. World events definitely have a big effect. That definitely will cause me to see overlap in clients' needs, clients' concerns, clients' ambitions and desires, what is driving them at the time of having a reading. So these things are very intriguing, and I have in the past thought about doing a video about this, you know, about just different things that I've seen across the board when client issues or client needs or ideas that clients have seem to be overlapping. And I seem to be having, you know, similar kinds of conversations, similar things coming up. But I've never made that video because I always think, you know what, that is just a privilege, that's secret sauce, that's something that will always make me smile, and it will always make me intrigued, and it will always make me occasionally it makes me go and find one of my astro witch friends and say, is something going on in this regard lately? And they'll be like, oh honey, it's heavy. Yes. And I'm like, right, okay, because it seems like every other client is having this same thing coming up, or they're saying a very similar thing, and they're receiving very similar messages to this very similar thing. So it's something that I feel is just this really delightful side effect of seeing so many people and noticing how different things are affecting them for better or worse. Like I said, world events can definitely be a thing, and parts of the world that people come from and things happening in individual countries, I see an overlap there in people's concerns, people's feelings about stuff, for definite. definite. Although this can be really interesting, although it's like an intriguing part of my job, and it definitely, I think, sort of unlocks more rooms of empathy in me when I see that people are going through similar things. There's obviously something in the air, there's obviously something in the planets that's happening, or seasonally or politically, whatever it might be. I do try not to paint every scenario with the same brush. You know, when I have a client sat down in front of me, I am being very much open to what it is that is going on for them. I want to make sure that I'm not weaving things together that shouldn't be together. So it's interesting as a pro reader because you see so many people over the course of a month when you're full time, and you notice that there are certain overlaps, certain patterns that definitely, you know, there's a motif happening. There's a repetition happening in what people want, what is concerning them, even phrases that they use, that kind of stuff, feelings that they're having, deep feelings about things. You notice the repetition, but you also have to make sure that every client is presented with a blank space. You know, you hold the space and you do not want it to be painted by what happened with the previous client or patterns that you are seeing between clients. If something comes up and it adheres to the pattern I've been noticing, it's just an interesting little thing that happens. You know, it's like a little interesting bonus point, and I'm like, oh, there's another one saying that kind of thing or going through that kind of thing. We're having another conversation about this same theme that's really interesting, and I let myself find it interesting, but there also has to be this discipline that I have to you know, keep returning to, and the discipline is making sure everybody is treated individually, and I am not applying a pattern to somebody just because I think I'm a clever clogs and I see the pattern, so I assume that that's what their needs are or that's what they're driving at. No, every client is an individual, and so it's almost like the excitement of seeing that a pattern is occurring, but also making sure people are treated as their own entities, and not every client is having anywhere near the same experience. But it is interesting to have a look at the overlaps, have a look at the patterns, and just notice them over the course of time. It's very intriguing. Okay, number 6 of the things that I love about being a pro reader. I very much love it when someone says something to me along the lines of, that's a good question that you're asking me. That made me think. This is making me think. I have a good place to start now. I feel like I've got things I can go away and do. These kinds of noises to me are worth far more than a client saying, you're absolutely accurate in what you just said. That's exactly what's happening. I do receive comments like that as well, and it's amazing, but I'm not actually shooting for, you know, like accuracy in terms of I was just able to interpret what's going on with you without you saying anything. I was able to pick up on something that you didn't tell me. That is always going to be a side effect of using tarot, being intuitive, being a witch, and those kinds of things. I think that that's always happened through my life, that I will get something on the nose and someone will be like, you just literally described exactly what is happening, and that information had not been revealed to me, right? That does happen. But more what I really enjoy and what nourishes me and really deeply feeds me is someone saying, that is a good question. You know, when I ask them a question about something that's come up in the cards, I'm asking them to consider something about what has come up. And we're using the card to really explore something, and they say, oh, that's a good question. Oh, I've never thought about that. That's really making me think differently. That's making me go deeper. That to me is such a reward. And I really love it when at the end of a reading, a client says to me, I really feel like I've got things I can go away and do now and think about and activate, you know, I've got actionables. I feel empowered. Thank you. That to me is one of the most important things. I almost, you know, feel that I want a reading to be the beginning. I don't want it to be the end. I don't really feel the closing of a book at the end of a reading. I feel the opening of it. And I feel like we just began the story together. We began a narrative together, and now it's for that client to go away and deep dive and explore more and feel empowered to do so. So those things, when it comes to being a pro reader, absolutely put little studs of stars in my day when someone says, that's a great question. This is making me think. I didn't see it like that before. I feel like I've got things I can go and do now. I feel empowered. You know, things are clearer for me. And I really also love it when people say, you confirmed things I was thinking, but I wasn't sure. It's like, you know, I already had a deep feeling that these things were the case, but you provided that external mirror that showed me through the cards that this is the case. I love that, because to me, I think a lot of people are coming for a reading because they have an inward knowing and they want it to meet with the outward sign, which is the definition of synchronicity, right? We already have the deep knowing, but it meets with that sign that can only be synchronicity. There's no way we could cheapen it into describing it as a coincidence. It is synchronicity. I think people come to a reading often looking for that. You know, it's not that they're completely clueless about their situation. They have a feeling. They've already put certain puzzle pieces together, but other bits of the puzzle are sketchy. They're not sure which bit goes where. But having that suggestion that they're on the right track, that their concern was valid, that their plan that they're formulating and wondering about is actually, you know, it actually will bear fruit, or it actually is a strong plan. You know, when that comes up in the cards and it says, and somebody says to me, oh, I've been thinking this, but I think I've needed some other confirmation and this is it. That also is a huge privilege for me in my life. And it's fascinating to see those things happen time and time again with tarot. And I always say that's the really interesting thing about the tool, is that, you know, there's such amazing, surprising, revelatory moments, and yet none of them are a surprise at the same time, because it's gold dust. This tool is gold dust. Convenient that it's the golden Art Nouveau tarot that I happen to have when I, hello, you know, so I think it's so powerful. It's like, to me, it's a little bit like something that I often say about being a witch. Being a witch is like fascinating, shocking, really like, wow, next level. But it's also just par for the course day to day. Like, yeah, you know, I often have a double reaction. For example, when a spell works or a really big sign comes through, or I get a very strong message from Goddess, I often have a dual response. There's two responses. The first one is, oh my God, I wish someone else was here to see that. Oh my God, that was like ridiculous. That was so big. That was so potent. But there's this other part of me, the, you know, cool, I've been a witch for years part of me that's like, yeah, I mean, magic exists. Like weirdness happens, you know, ritual mindset. It's always a thing. Your whole life can be a ritual mindset. So I've got two parts of me. There's the giddy witch that's like, oh, did you just see that? Oh, wow, that was like next level. That was so powerful. And the other part of me is like, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's every day. It's every day. So then that other part of me is not surprised at all and is just very sure that that kind of thing is supposed to happen and will keep happening. And it's the same with the cards, you know, definitely. It's a dual response. It's like, well, this is why we use tarot, because it is most excellent in that way. But there'll always be the other part of me that's like, whoa, you're kidding me. That is so wild. So I'm excited, but I also know that that is why we commend this tool so much. That is why we take it to our hearts. That is why I'm taking it to the grave, because it does that. It has that capability. It is so potent. This kind of lends itself nicely to the seventh thing that I love about being a pro reader, which is revelations during the reading that I get to see. People's eureka moments, people's light bulb moments, the moments where something comes together and I can almost audibly hear the click. I can almost hear it, and it is so satisfying to get to see that in real time. It is so satisfying. And one thing that I will say about that, now that I'm just kind of riffing here, is I do think it's really important that as a professional reader, I do not have a desire within myself to have that happen with every reading. And I've had conversations with a couple of pro readers about this, and it's so fascinating because one thing that I've kind of understood over time is that a lot of readers have this desire for there to be a very strong revelation, a very strong click, a very sort of deep understanding with every reading, because a reader will feel like that is how they know they've done their job. You know, if they sling cards and the querent is like, thank you so much, I've just suddenly understood so many more things, this has been so revelatory. That, of course, is a massive ego stroke to the reader, and it shows the reader that they are doing things well. However, it can get complicated because we shouldn't actually want that with every reading. That's not where every querent is at the time of the reading. They may not necessarily need to have a big revelatory moment in their reading. They might just need to get things off their chest, take away the messages from the cards, mull them over even a few weeks later, and leave it at that. They might just want some support. They might want to talk things out. They might want comfort from the cards. And there might not be any great big light bulb moment. You know, the penny may not drop. And if the penny does drop, or if pennies do drop later on, if there are any that need to drop, we may not see it. You know, it might be a week later, 2 weeks later, whatever it might be. So we have to be careful as readers that we are allowing people to have their own experience of the reading and not pressuring ourselves to make sure every reading contains a light bulb moment. So I've learned that over the course of time, and that is something that I have imparted to other readers as well when they've been putting themselves under that kind of pressure. I've been like, hey, I used to be like that, and honestly what I realized is it's not every reading that's supposed to contain that big eureka moment. And actually we just have to let every reading be what it is. It's a little eternity in and of itself. It's a little biosphere in and of itself. And every environment that we go into with that reading will be different. From reading to reading will be a different biodiversity. It's a different part in space and time. And we can't expect that everybody is going to be, you know, receiving a massive download right in front of us in real time. Or, you know, if we do pre-recorded or email, we can't expect that we're always going to get amazing feedback that says, this blew my mind, this turned my life around, this was so alchemical. It's not always going to be that, but that does not mean the reading has failed. The reading is what it needs to be for that moment in time. And I trust the perfection of the reading. I trust always that that is what needed to come through, and however it was received was how it was supposed to be received, you know. But it took me a long time to get there. Chickens. I must say, I did used to really want the big download, and I want to see it happen live. And when it does happen right in front of me and we both can celebrate about it, it is amazing. But I've moved on from feeling like that's what I need to achieve and that's what the client needs to provide me with, because it is kind of a bit like that. It's like the reader wants you to have a giant reaction to what's coming through. It is satisfying, but it's not the only way to make a meal of it. There is a phrase in tarot reading, and I'm not really that much of a fan of the phrase. The phrase is stalker card, right? It's a card that's following you. It's a card that keeps coming up in your own readings, in readings that you have from other people. It keeps coming up when you're studying. It keeps, you know, it's something that you see in situations or in symbolism around you. And we would describe that card as a stalker card. I don't like that terminology because I've had a stalker before in the past and it was a really harrowing thing. And whenever I hear the word stalker, I just get just a slight lowering in my vibe. I can control it, it's fine, but it's just like, oh, it just gives me the shivers, that word, right? So I try to avoid it where I can. I do not mind if other people use it, it's fine, I can handle it, but I don't have the desire to say the word stalker. But I think of them as follower cards. They're following you around, right? You're getting them in your own readings. Maybe you don't really know why a specific card keeps coming up, but it just keeps following you around. And with your daily draws, you can't seem to get rid of it. It just keeps coming up. I really enjoy when somebody's follower card comes up in a reading that I am doing for them. And it's not that rare. It happens quite often. I will sling cards and somebody will go, oh my God, that just keeps following me around, that card. It won't leave me alone. What does it mean? What is going on here? What is it trying to tell me? I just love having the opportunity to maybe shed some light on that, to bring a different perspective to what they may have thought, you know, and to add some layers and some nuances to what it is that they have managed to gather, if anything. That is such a cool experience. I love that. And like I said, it's not that rare. I really enjoy to have people say, oh, this card keeps coming up, you know. The other thing I love is when it's somebody's birth card or somebody's year card. That's really awesome. Or if it's a card that Spirit has previously given them to kind of work on and learn with, you know. Often I'll show someone a card and it'll be like, oh, that's my card of the year. That's my year card, you know, or that's my birth card, or that's the card that I asked Spirit for a message about what I should be focusing on. And that's the card it gave me. I've even literally had some clients say, you'll never believe this, but that was my daily draw card and it's out right now, literally on my altar. Let me show you. And I'm like, well, it's definitely double trouble here right now. We've got two. So yes, I love that feeling, because it's, you know, it's really spirit putting a microscope on that card and on that message, and really sort of hammering it home to that person that, like, yeah, this is definitely a card that you are being called to look at and focus on and truly experience deeply. And like I said, I can be there in real time to provide maybe more layers of understanding and talk about it from my perspective and what is coming through for me from my intuition as well. So we combine our skills and our power together to try and figure out what is the meaning of this coming through. The ninth thing that I definitely want to put across to you about why I love being a pro reader, something that gives me so much joy. I love that a card can be such a powerful diving board for a deeper conversation and exploration. I love it when a card comes up, I interpret the card, and then there is this kind of riff that happens between me and a client. We start talking about it. We start talking about where it's come up in our lives. We start talking about how it represents a theme, or it represents a situation that we have seen come up in various ways. I love what clients share with me as we sort of dive off of that card. You know, it is a diving board, and we literally just agree to put our sort of swimming costumes on together and go for it, you know. We cannonball off of that card, and it goes into some really meaningful, really juicy conversations that leave me floored, humbled, inspired, motivated, driven. Many's the time I've gotten to the end of a reading and said, thank you for that. You know, when a client thanks me, I say, thank you. You've changed up my day. I'm going to seriously go away and think deeply now. Like, what you have shared with me has really, really changed me. It's really affected me. It's really inspired me. I feel more driven now from this, you know? So very often just the places that a conversation can go are incredible. And I'm not the type of reader to just talk at somebody for 55 minutes after we've had our initial chat. I don't want that. I want it to be a conversation. You know, for me, tarot is a conversation facilitator. And a lot of the time, how does the saying go? There's a quote, and I do not remember who said it, but I got it from Velvet Goldmine. And it says, the meaning is actually not in things, it's in between them. I love that. The meaning is not in things, it's in between them. So much of what happens in a reading, the magic, where it comes from, is not from the interpretation of the card according to my perspective. That's part of it. But there's a lot of meaning that can happen in the chat that card inspires us to have as two people. And there's a lot of magic there. I love that experience. It's fascinating, and it will always be fascinating to me. I will always feel privileged that I get to have that with people. Number 10, the 10th thing that I really love so much about being a pro reader, and this could have gone so many other places. There's so many more than 10 things that I love about it. But I want to say that it is a great, great privilege to see somebody's journey over the course of time. There are many people that I will only ever give one reading to, but there are many people that I give readings to over the course of their journey. You know, I give them 1 year ahead reading a year, you know, or I give them, a reading that they come back and they share with me what happened as the result of that reading and how life went on. And then we do a reading from where they are at that current phase. So I get to actually see people through their kids growing up, you know, from partner to partner, from country to country, from job to job, making these big decisions, making these bold moves on the chessboard of life, and then coming back and sharing with me and checking in with me. It is so interesting to speak to someone a year later or 2 years later, 6 months later. It's also really interesting to have clients that I'm regular with, and I feel like for a while, for those months or those years in some cases, I get to walk with them in some really significant ways. And I think that is a real privilege. So as much as I really value those experiences of working with somebody once and once only, there's no doubt that it is a great privilege to have someone come back and for me to be able to see how things are moving along and how their opinions have changed over time and what they are pursuing and how that morphs and alchemizes, and watching people strengthen, watching people expand. It's so, so thrilling. And again, it's the privilege of my life without any doubt. Okay, my loves, those have been 10 things that I love about being a pro reader. If you are a pro reader, hit me up down below and let me know what you really love, or which number from this list definitely made you nod vigorously. Doesn't matter if you're not a pro reader, but if you're a reader at all, if you read for other people, if you have querents, family members, your partner, whatever it might be, again, get at me down below. Let me know what you love most of all about that process of reading cards for people. I would be very interested to know. Darling, I do give tarot mentoring. You can grab a card slinger session down below. I'll leave them down below for you. I also, of course, sell readings. I've got new things in the sale section at this time, so I will leave them down below as well. I'm very excited to teach another instant butterfly course soon. People have been asking when I'm bringing that back. It is a 3-hour live workshop, darlings, and it's all about helping you to expand your skill with tarot quickly. So it's got a lot of nice cheats and hacks in them. None of them are like scummy or anything like that. They're all about ways to accelerate learning and give more confident readings to querents. So if you're on the back foot with that kind of thing, if you need advice over it, and to help you to be more confident to read for querents, Instant Butterfly, look out for it. Watch this space. I need to figure out where I can fit it into my schedule, but when I decide on the perfect time and date, I will definitely be letting you all know when that is happening. Again, we're going for round 2. So I really enjoyed teaching it the first time. I will very much look forward to teaching it again. But if you want that one-on-one magic with me learning tarot, then please get at me for some mentoring. You know what to do. There's also a free 10-part tarot course on here called Trainee Tarot, and it has seen many, many, many alumni through their tarot learning. So I will leave that playlist down below as well if you want to see little baby face me teaching a course for beginners tarot. Okay, that is me. I am off. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Much love, my darlings, and blessed be. Mwah.